Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm back. Welcome back to Conversations with Cogee. This is I've Been Falsely Accused, Part 11. This is our show today. Y'all know how me and Jeffrey do it. We don't hold no punches. We come straight up with no chaser. Hey, and that's all it is to it. You know what I'm saying? I want to thank Mr. Raymond Santana again for being on the show today. Thank you, Raymond.
Well, my pleasure. My pleasure, bro.
So, Raymond, what do you think about the show so far?
Great show, man. It's definitely informative. People definitely need to tune in. They're missing a lot of stuff if they're not listening right now. And it's the stuff that can save somebody's life, and like you said, it can definitely save your own.
You got that right, definitely. Mr. Jeffrey Deskovic, my partner, how you doing today? I'm very proud of you. I know you was in class, but you came out of class to make sure we do this. And like I said, Jeffrey's, in law school doing what he need to do because we need somebody on that other side. Jeffrey, not only are you my friend, but I'm a fan of your work as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Cogee. It's Mutual Admiration Society. Thanks for welcoming me onto the station.
You're welcome.
Once again.
Now, Jeffrey, what don't people understand about Mr. Raymond Santana and that whole situation that he done been through?
Well, that this can happen to anybody, and that to me, it's an injustice on top of an injustice. The fact that they haven't received neither Raymond nor his co-defendants have received any financial compensation whatsoever. So it's an injury on top of an injury. It's an insult to injury. And so I'm really glad that Raymond came on the show and we get a chance to bring more light to that situation because, Cogee, it's really hard to put your life back together from a financial perspective after you've been, in prison wrongfully. Even though you're exonerated, there's always going to be people that are going to question, well, are you out because you're innocent, or did you just get off on a technicality? Did the system make a mistake? If you lack job experience? And the financial thing adds to a lot of mental stress as well. So a lot of things are interrelated, and so again, I can't stress enough. It's an insult to injury that Raymond and his co-defendants have not received any compensation as yet.
That's right. You're definitely right about that. And we definitely going to get into that later on in the show. You're going to break down and talk about, the kickback, man, what people should be getting after having their life taken away from them. But I definitely want to go back to Raymond real quick. Raymond, I'm going to hit you with some real good ones real quick. I know you're going to have some knowledge that's going to help people move forward, but I want to talk about the case just a little bit. You know what, Raymond? When they had you in the police precinct, how did they violate your rights as a young man? Let's talk about that right now. I think me and you are really strong educating the people by the way I ask you these questions. How did they violate your rights as a young man?
Well, first off, there's people have to take into consideration that we were juveniles. We were 14 years old. The reading of Miranda, does a 14-year-old even know what that means? You know what I'm saying? The reading of the Miranda rights, you have a right to remain silent, and you say shall be held against you in the court of law. At the end of the day, does a 14-year-old kid really understand that? No, he doesn't. And so I think it's several violations in this. When it comes to the interrogation part, the promising of you can go home, being questioned for over 15 to 30 hours. Being denied water, food, sleep. This is torture. This isn't questioning. This is torture. And so it violates the rights on many levels, many different levels. The threatening, the intimidation tactics, the good cop, the bad cop, which is stuff that it's in their handbook. This is stuff that they can use against you. They can lie to you. They can use the good cop, bad cop on you. It's in the Reed technique, which is, something that's taught.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, now, this is what, like I said, to everybody out there, hey, I hope y'all definitely got y'all's pens and paper ready. This is Mr. Raymond Santana. He's one of the Central Park Five, and we definitely bringing this knowledge right now. So I'm telling you, get your pens and your paper because this is going to be something you definitely want to jot down because you might not need it right now, but you don't know what tomorrow holds. You might need this, hopefully not. You might need this in the next 24 hours. Things happen just out of nowhere. But we want y'all to be smart enough to know how to deal with it. But we want our parents to be smart enough to know how to deal with it for their children and have a conversation with their children about the law and tell them what they need to do until the parents can get there to their rescue or just to be by their side. Maybe it might not be to their rescue, but y'all can be by their side and know what's right and what's wrong. So, Raymond, I'm going to come back to you again, and I want to ask you, break it down to us how they played y'all five against each other. And parents, this is what I want y'all to listen to, and I want everybody to listen to this. How did they play y'all against each other where all of y'all were innocent? Nobody knew y'all. None of y'all knew nothing about that rape and what happened over on the other side of the park. Y'all saw what was happening over on the other side with the riot and the homeless guy being beat up and all the other stuff like that. But y'all didn't know nothing about that. With y'all not knowing nothing about that, how did all of y'all come up with a story? I'm gonna let you. I know it, but I'm gonna let you tell it in your own words. How did all four of y'all come up with a story, somewhat the same, that didn't have nothing to do with nothing y'all saw, nothing y'all heard, or nothing y'all even knew about?
Well, first off, my lawyer says that it's only a couple of suggestions. Either you was there and we knew you wasn't there because DNA evidence proves that you wasn't there. Now, it's either that or it's either you know about it and you didn't know about it because we got all the facts wrong. So the only third reliable statement you can use is that it had to come from a source. And so it came from the police. That's number one. When you have to look at the dynamics, these are 20-year veterans. This was the elite of the police force. These was the Homicide North Detective Squad. So this was the homicide squad dealing with a sex crime. And so, they were considered the best. And you take that and then you look at 5 innocent, naive kids who don't know nothing about the system, right? And so with that, it's even surprising that we even lasted that long in interrogations. They starts off, hey Raymond, tell me what happened, and that goes on for hours. And it's all about getting you to a point of helplessness, of breaking you down. And they know when that point is. There was numerous times they brought different officers into the room to intimidate you, to yell at you, to scream at you. They pull your family member out, talk to your family member in the hallway. While you're talking to your family member in the hallway, they're working on you. When the family member comes in, all they see is you crying, shook up, don't know what the heck just happened. And this goes on for hours. And for me, the last one was where the lead detective in my case, Detective Arroyo, he gets upset and he bangs on the table. And he starts cursing at me and yelling at me. Todd, you're not telling me everything. And he lunges at me, right? Now, when he lunges at me, Detective Hardigan, who was another detective on the case, stops him. He stops him, pushes him back, kicks him out the room. At that moment, I felt like this man just saved my life. Right? But this is the game. And so I felt like that man just saved my life. So now I feel like I'm in debt to him because he just stopped this officer from hurting me. He kicks them all about the room, and he starts talking to me. And he comes in like a father figure. Raymond, you're a good kid. We know you ain't do this, but I need your help. You was in other precincts saying you did. I don't want you to go to jail. You got to help me on this one. I don't know what to tell him because I don't know what happened.
Right.
So he has to help me. He pulls out a picture of Kevin Richardson, as you see in the film, puts it on the table, says, you know him? I say, no. That's Kevin. Gives me the name. That's Kevin. We know he did. You see the scratch on his eye? He's going to jail. I don't want you to go to jail. You got to help me here. And from there, it starts to formulate. Now, because I don't know the facts, right? I don't know, and he doesn't know them either. Right. All he has is what's told to him.
Right.
Right? Because he's not out there in the field.
So he's speculating as he's coaching you.
That's right. So he says the only thing he knows is that when we was found, lost a lot of blood, something had to be used. And so in my instance, all he did was he gives me the names. What did Kevin do? What did Yusuf and Corey's not in my statement. What did Kevin do? What did Antron do? What did Steven Lopez do? Right? Those are the guys who was in my statement because those are the guys who got picked up that night. Corey and Yusuf got picked up the next day. So they're not in my statement. I didn't know them. So, and so when we get to the jogger, I'm making up a story and he's writing it down. He gives me options. You know, Raymond, she lost a lot of blood. She suffered a lot of injuries around her face. Something had to be used. A rock, a brick, or a pipe. He gave me options. Pick one. Oh, a brick was used. Okay, who had the brick? Steven Lopez. I don't even know who Steven is.
Oh, wow.
See? And so it gets formulated that way, and then next you know, you have a story. Now, how he got me at the end was he said, well, you know, Raymond, where were you at? I said, I was watching it. I saw it from a distance. And he said, no, that's not believable. You need to be right there.
Oh, wow.
See what I'm saying? This is how they get you. Because it's at that moment of you being helpless, of you being broken down. You just wanted to go home. Look, man, you got to help me. You help me, I help you. And
Wow.
this is how it happens.
Oh, man.
See, we thought because, you know, the five of us, Corey Wise went up to make 3 different statements, right? Because his story was so messed up.
Right.
So, you know, we're thinking, all right, they'll figure it out later. They'll go back and do the investigation and say, wait a minute, this is all wrong. Because we had the rape occurring at the reservoir. The reservoir and where the actual rape happened is about 400 yards distance.
Oh, wow.
See what I'm saying? So we're thinking, all right, they'll go back and find out we lied, but we'll deal with that later. And that's what we was waiting. We waited for people to look at the statement and say, wait a minute. How does a 14-year-old statement start out of saying at approximately 2,700 hours, me and 40 of my friends traveled southbound into Central Park? What 14-year-old kid talks like that?
Wow. You know that's right. You know that's right. Let me tell you something. I want to go to this. Jeffrey, get ready. I'm coming to you. And Jeffrey, what I want to ask you about is what he said about the interrogation. You went through the same thing when you were put away, you know, for a situation as well. I'm trying to keep my train of thought, man. You got me on fire right now, Raymond. I mean that. This show got me on fire right now. Now, what I wanted to say, you can see in Corey's confession when they gave him the soda, and Corey started talking and telling what he was saying. And the lady was like, whoa, hold on. You didn't say that at first. Where'd that come from? He said, it's like he looked at somebody and got nervous. I'm just putting it in my own words, describing what happened.
Well, have you seen that? They gave him the picture.
Bingo.
They gave him the photo of the woman, and they see the injuries.
Right.
And that's how he formulates a rock.
Right. And can you speak on that real quick? I'm going to let you break that down, you know, to our audience.
Well, you know, he's in the film. He's telling what he saw, and she gives him the photo of the jogger, and he sees the injuries. And right in there, he says, "Well, there was a small hand rock that was used."
Yeah.
And she says, "Are you telling me that because you just want to tell me that, or that's what happened?" And he says, "No, that's what happened." But when you give him the photo, you know, you're leading him on.
That's right.
You're tampering with the investigation. You're contaminating it. You can't do that. It's right there in the confession tape.
That's right. That's crazy. I'm telling y'all, trust me, everybody out there, and I'm a stamp on this. I mean it. Y'all got to see the Central Park 5. This is a must see because, like I said, I'm definitely, me and Raymond definitely going to do this again. And you know what I'm saying? You agree, Raymond?
That's right.
Oh, okay, there it is. And I want people to really be able to feel me and you, but I want them to see the games that are played. I want people to wake up. If you don't wake up for yourself, wake up for your family, wake up for your community, wake up for the people you say you love the most. Stop staying asleep when your alarm clock done went off and you up for work, but you still walking through life and through the day sleep. Wake up.
You know what happens a lot of times? People, they disassociate with stuff like this because they don't think that it can happen to them.
I say it all the time. But let me tell you something. But when things get hot, they come running. All of a sudden, This show is very important. They want to know who I know, who's the attorneys I was talking about. I done been through this twice already. And this is somebody, and I'm going to go on and say it. I'm going to keep it 100. This person didn't want to support me. This person don't listen to my shows. Anytime I see them, they go, "Oh man, you still doing your little show?" I think that's very disrespectful. Are you still doing your little show? My little show. And first thing I say back is, I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. You go look on the website and you tell me. Because if you're going to be ignorant and you're going to belittle me, I'm going to keep class about myself and I'm going to tell you nicely. Go look for yourself and find out. Well, this person just contacted me 2 weeks ago. Oh, my son's been caught up in something. He was riding in a car with somebody and they picked him up and it's on camera what time they picked him up and they just went down the street and got pulled over immediately. He wasn't with them from the point. I said, you ain't been listening to my show? Because you would have knew. See, you would have knew what to do. I said, you ain't been listening to my show. Oh, man, I've been working. I just ain't got time for that. Oh, okay. You ain't got time for that. You ain't got time for me. And on the days that I do my show, you off. I know that them are your off days. Do you see what I'm saying? I want people to quit playing stupid. If you can't, you ain't got to listen to me. You ain't got to jock me and Jeffrey. You ain't got to do nothing for us. Just do it for yourself. We got people like Raymond that come on this show. They ain't been paid to come on this show. They come on this show out of love. They come out this show out of pain, support, but to uplift and wake the people up. Mm-hmm. But what can we do if we giving you the information? See, it's almost like we can give you the map, but you're too lazy to look at it to go find the pot of gold. You just feel like if I stumble across the pot of gold, I'm going to call that God bless me, and that's luck. God, oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Let me tell you something. Sometimes God always gives you the navigational system to what you need. But sometimes the lazy people, they stumble across it, then they praise God. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, with me speaking on God real quick, and Jeffrey, I'm coming to you. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. You know I love you. I get passionate about this. I'm going to come to you right now, Raymond. I want in prison, you lost your faith. You and God ain't have no ties. Y'all wasn't kicking it at all. Mm-hmm. How did you feel at that moment? Break it down. Tell me about losing your faith, but also how did you restore your faith? What brought your faith back?
You know, I mean, I lost the faith. I kept a little bit of hope somewhere in there, but I definitely lost it. Especially there was a time where, you know, during my incarceration, I lost my mom. My mom died right before I went to the parole board. And so that was another. And at that time I was in college, and I almost flunked my first college course, my first semester in college in prison. I almost flunked that or threw that away.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Excuse me 1 second, Ryan. I'm sorry. Did you get to attend her funeral?
I got to go to a wake, and I got to visit her in the hospital.
Were you shackled up?
Yes, I was. And the only reason why I got to do that was because by that point I was still considered a model prisoner. Oh. And so they said, you know what? They gave me the option, and I picked to visit her in the hospital because, you know, she died from cancer. So the doctor had determined that she didn't have long to live. So I said, you know what? I'm going to see her before she goes. That's right. But because my disciplinary record was so good, they said, you know what? We're going to let you do both. And so I was able to see her before she passed, and I was able to attend the wake. But my faith was definitely gone, and it wasn't. It was about to exoneration. Even before exoneration, I really was in denial, and I said, you know what? This ain't gonna happen. They're gonna make this guy the sixth man. They're gonna sweep this under the rug, and I'm gonna go to my grave, Central Park 5, convicted rapist. That was it. Mm-hmm. But the exoneration happened, and so after the exoneration, it wasn't just the exoneration that is still faith. You know what I'm saying? It was other things after that. The blessings that came behind exoneration. That God said, you know what? I'm not just gonna exonerate you, but now I'm gonna put you in positions that you're gonna see how mighty I am. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And one was my daughter. You know, one was me going back to college. You know, one was me, you know, speaking to people all the time and uplifting the youth. And so to me, all this stuff became blessings that instilled my faith and strengthened my faith in the process. Wow. And, you know, I'm here today.
I hear you,
I'm
man.
here today.
I hear you. Now, you know what? And I'm glad you got your faith back because you're definitely using it and fighting with it. And I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate
you so much.
All right. So I'm going to go to you, Jeffrey, real quick. Jeffrey, they did you the same way when you got incarcerated, you know, the way they ran you through the meal, you know, talking to you and everything. What don't people understand about that, Jeffrey? And I want you to speak on it and say what a person should do in that situation.
What people don't understand is that they think that if you're innocent, then that means it's safe for you to talk to the police. Okay, so if you haven't done a crime and you don't know anything about it, why would you need a lawyer? What could possibly happen if you speak to the police? So People need to know a lot can happen. Raymond can happen. Jeff Deskovic can happen. Any of the other false confession exonerees, those wrongful convictions can happen. So it's critical. It's absolutely critical. There is nothing that the police need to talk to you about that's that urgent, that can't wait for them to provide you with a lawyer. You're supposed to give your name, your address, and the third thing is, I want a lawyer. When that lawyer comes, the playing field will be level. They won't be able to coerce you. Then if they got anything legitimate to ask you or say to you, then you could speak there with your lawyer present.
That's right.
That's critical.
That's right. You're definitely right about that. Now, Jeffrey, I want you to ask our guest, ask him 2 questions because y'all got a lot in common. Y'all both beat the system, but y'all beat the system out of being innocent. You get what I'm saying? And that was a hell of a fight. You get what I'm saying? So y'all can relate to a lot of stuff with each other. Jeffrey, I want you to ask Raymond questions.
What type of psychological after effects have you suffered as a result of you being wrongfully convicted and incarcerated for a crime you were innocent of?
Good question.
Yeah. Me and Jeff, we go way back, man. For me, it was a lot of effects. I speak on some of them in the film. Where I had this aggression. I had this. If I'm in the room with a lot of people, I scour the whole room. I map everything out. Because in prison, that's how it is. You got to watch your back. I like to stay in a room that's about the size of my cell. That's where I felt comfortable at. If I was in a big room, I didn't know how to handle it. When I ate my food, I ate it in 2.5 seconds because that's the amount of time you have when you sit down because anything can happen in prison and you have to be prepared. And I deal with a lot of trust issues. It's hard for people to come into my circle. It's hard for me to trust them because of prison. I grew up, from 14 to 22 in the system. And so, everything that I was supposed to learn from my dad and passed on down, was replaced with prison life. And so, and the indoctrination of getting ready to go to the Department of Corrections. And so, for me, it's still rough to this day. It's still rough to this day. That stuff is embedded in me so deep, as being a kid that it's hard to let go. And the only way you can do that is by acknowledging that you have those characteristics and then try to do something about it. But when you're in a situation and it gets hot, that stuff resurfaces quick.
That's right. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Right. My next question is this. Former Manhattan District Attorney Robert Morgenthau, often when your case is brought up, gets credit because when the actual perpetrator, Matthias Reyes, confessed and his DNA matched him, he agreed to the exoneration. He said, the confessions all had contradictions in them, so he's given some credit for that. My question to you is, doesn't that man deserve, doesn't he hold some moral culpability in causing the original injustice to happen to you, in as much as he was the DA at the time that you were convicted? It was his office who wrongfully convicted you, and these same contradictions and red flags that were around the so-called confession existed and were known at the time of trial?
Yes, he does. He's definitely in the blame because at the end of the day, he was the boss. He was the DA. He let Lederer, who was the DA, district attorney in our case, he gave her the reins and let her do as she pleased. And that's why when I say that people fail to do their jobs, he is morally responsible. He is professionally responsible. He is responsible all around the board because at that moment, when he seen that her investigation was taking a wrong turn, he should have stopped her and pulled her back and said, hold on, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And he didn't. He let her go. He let her and his defense team go on and send us to prison. So he's definitely responsible.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, another question I have for you. Discuss what was the difference, your experience in being incarcerated wrongfully, specifically for a sex offense, as contrasted with, say, if you had been convicted wrongfully of a murder or a burglary or robbery or some other crime. What particular hardships, what particular difficulties did you face as a convicted rapist in prison?
Well, there's first, like you said, there's the label of the rapist. In prison, the only thing that trumps a rapist is maybe a child molester. And so a rapist is subject to ridicule. A rapist is subject to being taken advantage of. When a person enters the system like us, with those labels, you have to go very fast. You have to make decisions right at the door. There's no time to think because now somebody's looking to make a name off of you. And then on top of that, you know, for some of us who's in juveniles, they made us attend like sex offender classes. You know, and so that, you know, again, you're sitting in there, you're hearing these other dudes who are talking about their cases and what they did, and then they get to you and you have no answer because you didn't do it. It gets marked down as being in denial. You know, but when you step into that prison, you definitely have to be on your toes, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you know because if not, there's somebody looking to make an example. Because once somebody says he's a rapist, everybody turns their back, and whatever happens to you can happen to you, and the person who's doing it can probably get away with it,
even with the guards and everything, right? Even
with the guards and everything. You know, it does not matter. Once a person says he is a rapist, everybody turns their back. You know, I've seen situations where the police walk out at the time when it's about to go down because they know what's going to happen.
Oh, wow.
You know, and they give you some minutes and they'll come back and make sure everything's stopped by the time they come back in. You know, that's how it is. But Jeff can tell you in prison, you know, I've seen officers say, look, just make sure nobody dies. Everything's fine.
Oh, wow. Make sure nobody dies and everything's fine.
Yeah, it's his shift. He has to do the paperwork.
Wow. Well, you know what? Let me, Jeffrey. That was great what you done. And Jeffrey, stay loaded up with your answers because I'm coming back to you. I want to go around the board because, like I said, in this last hour, you know, this is Jeffrey's hour to definitely come in. He's my correspondent. He keeps us game tight. And Jeffrey makes his show good because he ends the show. I start the show and he comes in and end it with all his information. And you know, you're doing a great job too, Raymond. But Raymond, what don't people understand about when they don't, you know, when the parents don't try to even get a good public defender for their children and they just get mad at their child over something that their child really didn't do? What don't they understand that can happen to their baby when their baby goes off into prison? This is a young child that gets sentenced into a prison. What don't they understand about that? Hold on, excuse me. You know how some parents say, oh, well, you'll learn your lesson from this. What lesson do they think their child's going to learn from that?
You know, they think that, you know, it's a scare straight program. And in actuality, you know, your child can go in and he returns totally different. He can become very hardened. He can become a career criminal, you know, because you put him in that environment. Well, he's put in that environment, you know, and that environment is not for rehabilitation anymore. It's more for punishment. So there's no college program anymore. You know, there might be a GED program, but there's no more college. So how can he further his education? You know, how can he rehabilitate himself in prison so that he can come out and be productive? That's gone. So all you have left is a gang element, a survival element, you know, a grow up overnight element, you know, a hardened person. That's what you have left. And so they don't understand that at the end of the day, you know, your baby might not even come back.
Yeah, bing. That's what I was shooting for. You hit it right on the nose. You hit it right on the nose. Exactly. You know what? Now, what I want to do, I want to go around to everybody real quick. We had left. Okay, Foxy had said something on break. And with Jeffrey and Raymond, I want y'all both to hear this. She had said something on break. I was asking Foxy about, you know, going down to the prison. She said she used to go down to the prison a lot and she was taking her children. But we don't understand, as the people that's in jail, the toll that it takes on this single mother now to go through all this. Foxy, can you break it down? And I want Raymond and Jeffrey, you know, to correspond with you on what you're saying right now.
First, can I just say that to Raymond?
Okay, right.
I just want to say I was in New York when that happened with this Central Park 5. Actually, I really want to apologize to you because I seen it in the papers, but I didn't read it. I didn't follow it. I wasn't involved with it because I felt like y'all was innocent. So for me, I want to apologize for the whole city of New York, being from New York.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
And I'm going to check out that movie because I really didn't follow it. And
I'm going to give you the movie. I got it. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to make sure you see it.
Okay. Well, I will watch it.
Okay. Go ahead.
But I feel like the media has a whole lot to do with it, and I feel like our children, our black children and brown children, aren't in journalism enough for us to really voice our opinions on anything. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the media, at the end of the day, the media is a great influence on our people. Back then it was all about the tabloid wars. It was who can sell the most papers. So whoever can put out the most outrageous headlines, it would be be declared the king. And so with us, the headlines just got crazier and crazier every day, and it led people to believe what they read, and so because of that, the emotional outcry happened of the people, and everybody turned their backs, and they didn't care what happened to us. They forgot that we were children.
True.
They to them we were animals. That we weren't even human anymore. Let alone we were kids, and people really pushed that aside and just said, you know what? Whatever happens, I don't care. It's about time. And it still goes on to this day. You have Bloomberg, who there was an incident at 42nd Street years back, and he called it a Wowsy incident, and so has Loda when he was running against Bill De Blasio. He used the term in reference to the kids also. And so whenever you use that term, it's basically saying, these aren't kids, these are animals.
Mm.
Basically, it's really a lynching going on, really.
Definitely.
That's what it is.
You know what, but Foxy, hold on. I need you to break it down about coming to the prison system and bringing your children. I need that from you.
Yeah, it was hard for me to go down. Well, like my kid's father was upstate, and that bus ride was like 2 hours. You had to go down to Circle, whatever, to catch the bus. That was like the whole day on the bus. And then the bus driver, he was like, he didn't care if we got there or not. He was speeding so fast, he was scaring everybody. So he didn't care if we was coming or going. And then when you get there, you have to have these certain clothing that you wear, and then you go through the interrogation like you're going to prison, and it was really rough for me and my children. But I did it, and it had family days. It was rough, seeing all these men and their children. It was just devastating to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Foxy. See, that's what I wanted, all the listeners to listen to. This is a mother who's been through that. And like she said, she's like, Cogee, you just don't understand what we go through when we have to, take off our jobs if it ain't our day off, and we got to get round the kids up. We got to spend money to go. You want to give somebody something on their books. It's so much that goes along with this situation. And it ain't only the men that's being hurt. It's the families and the women as well. Can you speak on it, Raymond? And then you, Jeffrey?
No,
Right.
definitely. When you have a situation like that, the man, he's gone. He's the protector. He's the provider. The wife is the backbone of the family. And so you're missing that piece, and both of them together, incorporate and instill the value system into the children. And so what happens is that, once he's gone, there's a void. And so the mother's put in a position where she has to be mother and father, and it's taxing. It becomes very difficult. And then as the kid starts to grow, he's uncontrollable because he's missing an element that should have came from the husband as a father figure. That we have that saying that it takes a man to raise a boy. That's right. But he's gone, and she cannot do the job. She is woman. She is not man.
So it's role reversal.
That's right. And she tries her best, but it's not her fault.
Right.
It's definitely not her fault. And what happens is it becomes a broken home. And then this kid, he grows up, and now what he sees is what in the street, and he starts hanging out with these other guys, and this becomes his family. This becomes his father figure. He starts looking up to the local drug dealer or the gangster on the corner. And this is what he starts to incorporate and what he starts to attach himself to, because at the end of the day, this is symbolizing some type of power to him. Because he doesn't really know what power is, because he was never taught properly from a man's perspective.
And at the end of the day, Raymond, it don't matter where you get that compliment from, just long as somebody cares about you and it feels good, right?
That's right.
Okay, there it is. I had to piggyback on that one with you for real.
But there was just one thing I wanted to say to the mothers that are going through that. Don't, when your spouse goes to jail, you shouldn't talk about him going to college. He's at college, or
Lie about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be honest about it, and don't even talk about him. Or you can talk about him, but don't talk bad about him.
Right.
You let your children grow up and learn what happened to him, or their own experience with him.
And no, so basically you saying having they back in the toughest of their times.
Yeah.
In front of anybody and not trading up,
Yeah.
Right, I hear you. All right, get down, Foxy. I hear you. Speak up for them mamas. That's right. Fight for our men and them families. That's right. Mr. Jeffrey, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, when you send an innocent person to prison, you don't just send them, but you also send their family and their friends. One side of prison visits, and I know this because I used to receive visits, and then also I have went into prisons to visit some of my clients, so I've seen both sides of it. When I was a prisoner, and I would get, my mother would come see me. Often the guards wouldn't tell me that I had a visitor till like half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, sometimes as long as 2 hours. I get down the visitor, every time I have a visitor, I hurry up down there as fast as I can. My mother's like, "Yo, where you been? I've been waiting. I've been waiting here to visit for you for 2 hours."
Oh, wow.
So there's that part of it. And then the guards, they'll do the waiting. They make the visitors wait, and then they harass them as they go through the metal detectors, and they make snide comments, and all this is designed, it's calculated in order to discourage people from visiting their family members in prison. So that's another key thing I want to encourage. The wives, the girlfriends, the mothers, the sisters, the friends, the people that's incarcerated wrongfully. Even for people that are there for something they did do. Don't let the discouragement. Don't let the system lead you to not come and visit, because that's what the system wants. Because having solid family ties is essential for the morale outside communication, and it's really an important rehabilitative factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And you know what, Jeffrey, speak on, and you and Raymond can too, on how important it is to get a letter, how important it is to get a visit. But if you can't get a visit, for those letters to nonstop to keep coming, to help keep your spirit up and help keep you, not wanting to just end your life, because it's people that's depending on you to come home. Go ahead, Jeffrey, and then you, Raymond.
Letters were critical. To me, it's not. It takes on a level of importance. It's not comparable to getting a letter when you go out here and free. That's your lifeline. That's your way to stay sane. That's your way to try to find out a little bit about what's going on in the outside world. That's how you can maintain a little bit of context, so that when you do eventually emerge, everyone is not like total complete strangers. It is anyway, but it's lessened some by the outside letters. Man, when the guards came by the cell, Cogee, we had a prison term. We called, Raymond would know this, right? They called it, when the guard would come by the cell, and he wouldn't stop because there's no mail, not even a piece of junk mail, nothing. We would say those were drive-bys. Because when a guard walks by, you feel something in your heart. You just got stabbed invisibly.
Yeah.
Even a piece of junk mail means something, because somebody mailed you something on some level. Raymond, are you familiar with that phrase?
100%, Jeff. I agree with you.
Hey, so basically y'all saying, even if y'all in there, just sign y'all up for all kind of catalogs and everything, and just mail them to y'all. You know what I'm saying? Just keep something coming, so them drive-bys don't deter you, and then, like you said, strip your spirit away, right?
That's right. It keeps you alive.
Yeah.
It keeps your hope alive, and it keeps you alive, definitely.
That's right. I hear you. Okay, Jeffrey, what I want you to do, hold on real quick. Jay, get the mic real quick. Jeffrey, we got a letter from prison and, from Lorenzo, and I want Jay to read it real quick. And then after that, Jeffrey, bring us up to speed on what we need to know, what are you doing? And then we'll go back to Raymond real quick. Go ahead, Jay.
This is from Lorenzo Johnson. His website, just right off the bat, www.freelorenzojohnson.org. And he wrote Cogee, peace. I hope all is well with you and your family. As for myself, I'm maintaining in my nightmarish of a situation. I just got your info from Jeff today. I was waiting to hear from you. It was nice doing your show and educating society on wrongful conviction and how the court system failed me. My legal team is meeting with the Attorney General tomorrow in hopes of resolving my injustice. I'll keep you posted, and hopefully you can help me in continuing to get my story out there. Take care of yourself and be easy. Peace. I await your reply when time permits. Free the innocent. Lorenzo Cat Johnson.
Okay, there it is. So everybody, we want y'all to know, me and Jeffrey do write back. And like I said, I'm definitely going to write, Lorenzo back tonight. I want to send him a player's bet. That's what we call it out on the street, when me and help each other. It's a player's bet. I mean, you ain't going to play a hate and not help me out. You're going to help a brother out. You know what I'm saying? Send us a little something. So that's what means a lot. And I'm definitely going to do that, man. And I encourage anybody, and even you, Raymond, if you know people in prison, please tell them about this radio show right now that me and Jeffrey's doing and what we doing right now. And we definitely fighting, and give them my information, and we'll write them back and do, bring them through the show and do whatever we can do for them.
Definitely.
All right. Jeffrey, go ahead, bring us up to speed.
All right. Firstly, Lorenzo's legal team did meet with the Attorney General. They reviewed the evidence of his innocence. They're doing their own independent investigation right now. We're cautiously optimistic as to how that turns out. In the end, we're hoping that they can agree with us that he is in fact innocent, which would do away with the need of having to litigate at a hearing. So that's one important thing. Another thing is that I participated in a panel discussion a couple of days ago at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. The New York Attorney General opened up the panel discussion. He started off as the keynote. He introduced legislation which would he announced support for new legislation, which he got a sponsor for in New York, which would enable people who've been wrongfully convicted in confession cases. See, there was a deficiency in the law, which basically, in a nutshell, said that this would be fasten your seatbelts for this. Okay, Cogee, I kid you not.
Right.
If there was a part of the law said if you contribute to your own wrongful conviction, then you're not eligible for compensation. So that they were taking that to mean if they coerced the confession out of you, right? Keep in mind how Raymond broke that down and how I have in prior shows. They were saying that if they coerced a false confession out of you, and that was the main evidence against you at trial, then the state would be able to say, well, you contributed, and so they wouldn't have to pay you. So he announced that he was introducing legislation to change that, give people 3 years to file for compensation instead of 2. So there was those two things. There was recently the study in the New York Times. A record 87 people were exonerated the last year, which is a record number. When we've talked a little bit about, as a sideline for our main wrongful conviction spiel, we've talked about importance of college education in prison, both in the generic and in Raymond's story, my story, and other stories. So the governor of New York, he announced that he's supporting reintroduction of college education in prison. He says, look, that it costs $60,000 a year to incarcerate somebody, to give them a college education, only adds $5,000 to that, and it's better to spend the money up front, let people get education while in prison so they can be equipped to get gainful employment upon release. You could save that money to reincarcerate them when they start committing economic crimes out of desperation.
Okay.
So those are some real exciting things, which is the same position I urged him to do a couple of years ago in a op-ed, open letter to him. So a few encouraging things.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you keep us on point, man, and I thank you, Jeffrey, and I want you to keep going as far as you can with what you're doing. But we down to 3 minutes, and I'm proud of you, Jeffrey, and you're doing your thing. Raymond, words of encouragement to our listeners, and we definitely going to do this again, right?
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Words of encouragement to our listeners.
At the end of the day, people, don't give up hope. It's all about us coming together and building something together and righting these wrongs. It doesn't matter, the color, race, creed, where you come from. It's all about doing what's right at the end of the day.
That's right.
And so, I say people, let's band together, because these are issues that always will be swept under the table if we do not come out in numbers and we do not support them. So let's band together and let's save some lives.
Okay, there it is. Jeffrey, real quick, words of encouragement.
Persistence overcomes resistance.
Okay, there it is. So, you
There
know,
it is.
that's right. So I definitely want to thank Mr. Raymond Santana for being on the show today, man. Like I said, I want to do more. Me, you, and Jeffrey, we all going to hook up. And like I said, I want to bring the other crew members on here, your team, and we're going to do this for real, where all 3 hours we're going to do this just with y'all because, you know, the people need to hear their side of the story too. And I mean that, you know, and I'm definitely down with y'all, man. Hey, we brothers now. Now that we didn't converse, we brothers. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
All right. Okay, definitely. So I want to say, you know, to all our listeners out there, much love to y'all. And, you know, this is serious. You heard what Raymond said. You heard what Jeffrey said. This ain't no game. I want to thank Mr. Kareem Bellamy, who was on today. This is no game. It's his real life. People are getting put away, man. It's crazy. There's so many traps out there that sometimes we fall in on our own. We run full speed, blindfolded, and run right off the cliff. And it's already a sign 20 miles back that said deep cliff coming straight ahead. But we ignore it. We got to be smarter than that. We got to stay on our game. We got to listen to our leaders. We got to listen to our people that do this like me, Raymond, and Jeffrey are doing right now, and all the others around the world and the people that spoke today on the phone. We care, but we can't do it alone. We can't think for you. And one thing I want y'all to remember, I want y'all to wake up. When the alarm clock goes off, and you get up to go to work or go to school, whatever, walk through this life with your eyes open, all right, and not closed. Much love, and I'll talk to y'all soon.